quarterly magazine. We are proud to be a part of the Collective for Podcast, a virtual tour showcasing you and your business. Our podcast, the magazine, a virtual tour, all on one platform where networking, creativity, and visions meet. All you have to do is contact us at ipindesign@gmail.com. And tonight, welcome to the show. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm Nanette Buchanan, and this is iPen Visions Podcast, interviews and conversations where we talk to people in all walks of the community, all walks of jobs and interests. And all we want to do is make a network of community, getting people an opportunity to speak about what they do, why they do it, what's their purpose, and possibly connecting with our audience. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We thank you for joining in. We thank you for being a part of our audience. Tonight, we have a return guest who we got a chance to talk to her in a short term. So we decided to bring her back so that we could fill the whole perspective of what she does and not just a quick rush thing. We had to do that because of time differences. And sometimes we don't realize what the West Coast is this, the East Coast is this, the Central Coast is this, and Puerto Rico is a totally different thing. So, we're going to talk about that too. But I have to talk about it because my partner, she's in Puerto Rico. I won't say she's from Puerto Rico, but she's in Puerto Rico and she's broadcasting from there. And we appreciate her taking the time with the time change, the weather change, the attitude change, the mood change. Do I sound upset? Yes, I'm upset. I'm upset because she's in Puerto Rico. But I love her to death, and I'm going to bring her to the stage because she helps me do all that I do. So, hey, Felice.
Hey.
How are you?
You can stop hating if you just come on.
Yeah. I keep, I'm looking at things, and every time I say to myself, well, we can go such and such a time, all of a sudden these big storms come through. And I'm like, oh no, we can't go now. We can't do this now,
Don't let the storm stop you, because the storm, then you'll be getting away from the storm because it has yet to really storm here. Yeah, in a couple
it's not storming there. Is that what you're rubbing in? That it's not a storm there? That's what you're doing. Okay. All right.
Hi.
Love you, girl. At any rate, I wanted to ask before we bring our guests on. I wanted to ask or get your comment so that you can express it to the audience as well. Okay, a lot of people have said, they got people that they work with, they got people that they do business with, they got people that they contact, when they need help or whatever. But because of your background in business and how you make the connections connect, what do you find different working with iPen Visions and myself? What do you find different in the evolution of becoming better? Because we've been doing this a while.
Sure.
And we try to evolve, slowly, but we grow and we do different things. As a business consultant, what do you think has helped us to be on that level?
Well, so again, I love the fact that iPen Visions talks to the person, because no matter what you're doing, and especially for, entrepreneurs, their focus is, of course, to sustain their business. They have to have sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but no matter what, you're talking to a person, because the person is going to be doing the buying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's about the person. And I specifically love our format because it's all about our guests.
Mm-hmm.
It's we're helping them to I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say this to sell them
Mm-hmm.
or their product, but it is for them. So now our audience gets to see the person, right? And then you make a connection with no matter what they're doing. So that guest might be a community activist. Well, a person that's watching in the audience says, I love my community and I connect in this way or that way. Or a simple thing of when we ask the question of, what do you do to fill your cup? The answers are so varied, but then someone will be able to resonate with the way a certain person
Mm-hmm.
fills their cup, but they would have never known it. And so there's a connection on so many different levels when you get to know what you don't know.
Right, right. And I wanted that to be said to the audience in your voice as and coupled in my voice, because the thing about it is that it is very, very hard for people that are in business to get a chance to even promote not only their business but promote who they are.
That's
they,
right.
they don't get that chance. They get a chance to say, hey, I do XYZ, but
Mhm.
they don't get a chance to say, hey, I am this and this is why and this is how I adopted this and how
Right.
I got there.
And a
And
lot of
that's what
people,
we emphasize.
yeah, I don't think that they even have that mindset of that, I should, do that. I should promote who I am, um, to know, what was the thing that, or what's mm, the wind beneath the wings.
Right,
And yeah,
right.
and
And
so
we're not and we're not talking to the employees of.
right,
This is
right,
not
right.
the employees of. We're talking about the person that has developed whatever it
Yeah.
is, has designed whatever it is,
Hmm.
or the person that is seeking a vision and
Sure.
what they want to do and have landed various things
Sure.
to show them the way, and now
Hmm.
you're showing others. And
Right.
I wanted to get that, out there because of the simple fact that it's never ever ever come up in the topic where
Hmm.
we've asked someone, well, what made you kind of want to be on this platform? Or what
Hmm.
made you kind of want to do this? But it's obvious. It's obvious that you
Hmm.
come and you present yourself. So with that, I'm saying to the audience now, all you entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
all of you coaches, all of you different people that you watch the previews, you watch the audios, you watch the recordings. Bring your business,
Yeah.
bring your vision, bring your dream. That's what we are promoting here. And
Hmm.
tonight's guest is one who changes your dream and
Hmm.
changes your vision so that you can live with it,
Yeah.
because she deals with co-parenting. And we know that sometimes co-parenting is a whole different jungle, so her business is to untangle those things and show
Mhm.
you those things and tell you, hey, you can do this. You can build yourself. Don't be discouraged because things didn't go the way you wanted them to go. And I
Mhm.
love that about her mission and her purpose in her business. So tonight's guest is Clover Taylor-Johnston. Like I said, we've had her before. We've dealt with her before, and we want to bring her to the stage tonight again and give her 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 full bouquet of blossom and flowers to say, "Hey, here you are. We want to present you as you are, and welcome to the stage, Miss Johnston. How are you this evening?"
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad. Wait a minute. We have to ask, because the last time we spoke, you were in one place and then you said I was going to be in another place and I don't know where I'm going to be. Where are you tuning in from?
Okay, I am right now in Burnaby, British Columbia, Canada.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Okay. So you're in
very
Canada
good.
tonight. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. How's the weather there? Is it warm there too?
It's great. It has been great for the last 5 days. Very
Oh,
warm
okay.
in the mid 20s. Mhm,
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
All right.
mhm.
So we're going to ask the all important question. because we don't introduce people other than their name and a little tidbit about what they do. But please,
Mhm.
please, please tell the audience, who is Clover Taylor-Johnston?
Okay, so who am I? So I would say first, I'm a mother. I
Okay.
think
Okay.
that has been my most, I think, significant and hopefully my
Hmm.
most impactful role, because I
Mhm.
think as parents, I don't think we
Hmm.
sufficiently understand how much value we can bring to the world through our children.
Mhm.
And it's the
Hmm.
greatest platform that we have as parents. That's why
Mhm.
we should hone it, cherish it, develop it with all the struggles and with all the unexpected fallouts. But I
Mhm.
do believe it is one of our most significant contributions to the world.
Right.
So my children are now adults, but I am really passionate about this co-parenting journey, and I'm just going to share with you and the audience a bit of how I got here. So I was married for about 5 going to 6 years. I had a 4-year-old and a newborn baby, approximately 5 going 6 weeks,
Mhm.
when my marriage started to show signs of fraying.
Mhm.
And that fraying came amidst what was the most powerful tropical cyclone of the 20th century that hit
Really?
Jamaica.
Wow. Wow.
So my emotional world began to rock at a time when the physical structure in which we live was
Mhm.
ripped apart. The roof just ripped off, peeled off. And there was I holding a 5-week-old baby, my mom in the house, my then husband, and my 4-year-old waiting to go to kindergarten. And of course, we just couldn't live there anymore because it was a major, major, major work that needed to be done on the roof.
Hmm.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there was no power, no
Mhm.
telephone. Um, Mobile phones were not mainstream then, they were few and far between.
Mhm.
However, we managed between neighbors and relatives to huddle together for about 3 days until my brother and sister could actually navigate the journey into Kingston to pick me up with the kids and my
Mhm.
mom. But I remember the last place we slept was at my cousin's house. And when my then husband dropped us there, thinking he was going to be staying with us, um, I said to him, "So, where are you going?" Because I saw that he was about to leave. And he said to me, "Where I'm going, you can't come." And those words
Oh.
I have never
Oh.
forgotten them. Because
Wow.
imagine you have a 5 going 6 weeks old baby, a 4 year
Mhm.
old, you are now physically shattered. I am still
Mhm.
in postpartum and I'm still saying,
Mhm.
asking the question to this day, how didn't I get into postpartum depression? And I cannot answer that question.
Mhm.
Mm.
Anyway, um, so I had to return to my mom's house for a period of almost 3 months while the roof of the family home was being repaired.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And my landlady messaged, called, and said, "You need to come and look at the house." This was almost 3 months after the disaster. And she said, "Come and look at it and see how it's going and if it's everything is working according to plan." Because I had to go back to work after maternity leave. It was now approaching December. And I went in to view it and things
Mhm.
were going well. So I know it would only be maybe a week or two before a full return. I had
Mhm.
a lovely neighbor who could have been my mom then, and we had a great relationship.
Mhm.
And I went next door to say hello to her. And when I arrived, after greeting her, she said to me, "I saw your husband over there. He came across and he said he's not returning." And I
Mm.
didn't reply to her, but I said to myself, fancy he told you, but he didn't tell me. But
Oh.
I had been figuring out that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there were ripples and
Mm-hmm.
ruffles, and
Mm-hmm.
I could feel the fraying. Sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
know it in your gut
Sure.
before the reality manifests.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that didn't deter me because I knew I had to go back to work. I needed money to look after my children. He was unemployed. And so I returned.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the most volatile periods in my life, in
Mm-hmm.
that I often, looking back, refer to the co parenting experience as manifesting the three V's: the volatility, the violence, and the void. The
Mm-hmm.
volatility is that emotional roller coaster where we are finding our way. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have a default model to say this is what happens and this is how it's going to be unfolded. No, it doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have expectations of the other party,
Mm-hmm.
and you are never ever sure when they're showing up, if they're showing up, what their input is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that emotional roller coaster, you have people trading barbs. You have people getting angry. You have people getting upset.
Yeah.
Some exes, as they're splitting, they're not even able to speak to each other because of the
Mm-hmm.
fear of reprisal. And
Mm-hmm.
some reprisals may come as physical harm. And I
Yeah.
remember my ex-husband was not a physical person, but I remember he started to get very loud in his tone. And I didn't like it. And looking back now, had I the life experience that I have
Mm-hmm.
now, I would have applied it then. I would probably have restricted his visits. But being young at the time
Mm-hmm.
and believing, because I was raised in a traditional nuclear family, and that really helped to power me through this process. Because
Mm-hmm.
something I determined very earlier on, I am not going to um, I am not going to court parental alienation. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter the circumstances, I'm going to allow their dad to have full access to them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, they will make the judgment about his role
Mm-hmm.
as a father, but
Mm-hmm.
that was not for me to do. So
Yeah.
I allowed him, also because they were young children and they were
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable. They were 0 and 4. So you do not want your children to be going out with a dad who is emotionally fragile,
Mm-hmm.
is unemployed, and you just don't know where he's taking them. So for their
Mm-hmm.
safety and security, I allowed it because that was more comfortable for me emotionally and physically because I knew where they were.
Yeah.
So I allowed that. However, I cannot underscore, and let me finish with the void. The void is that emptiness that we feel. It's that grief season that we go
Mm-hmm.
through. Because whether we want to admit it or not, and we should,
Mm-hmm.
separation and divorce is trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to treat it as such and acknowledge it as such so that it gets the attention
Mm-hmm.
that's desired. So
Right.
we
Mm-hmm.
can, along that healing journey, become
Mm-hmm.
whole so we can actually nurture and care for our children in a wholesome way.
Mm-hmm.
So that is an important part of it. Acknowledging the pain and the loss.
Mm-hmm.
We had a shared identity. We had shared dreams. We were hoping we were going to raise these children. And moreover, that we were going to stay married as a unit and as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And it is devastating to unbundle
Mm-hmm.
all of those expectations.
Right.
Well,
Right.
let me
It's like physically tearing down the structure of a house and
right.
rebuilding.
Well, let me ask you this: in the and I've already put it up, the co-parenting transformation program, the acceleration program. everyone comes into the program understanding they're trying to fix something. They're trying to fix either what's within them, what has happened, or they're trying to fix it so they don't hit the same button again, that they don't get involved in, the same type dilemma again. And as you said, we can't control any of that. We don't have something that says nobody would get married if they, could see the future and see that being part of their future. Nobody would take that choice. So what is it that you've explained your needs, and you've explained how you evaluated it's time for me to do this, that, or the other. How does the Transformation Accelerator program that you've developed identify for the person that, hey, it's almost like, not getting so far off the topic, but what it reminds me of is you got somebody that's drinking in your home. Today they drink a little. The next time they drink a little more. The next time they drink a little more. And after a while, it's become so habitual that that they have a drinking problem. And now you want to talk to them about this drinking problem because you see it coming, you see it happening. And I guess I'm talking about, you can't prevent what you don't understand. You can't prevent some of the things that happen if you don't understand what they are. And you think you're the only one going through it. So you very rarely even talk about it. But what is it that the family needs to keep an eye on? When you see certain discords happening and certain things happening, like you said, you just had a new baby, that was already trauma. We all of us women, we understand that emotional thing you go through after having a child. What is it that the family needs to understand? Like, a lot of times people say, well, why did you have a child with him? You knew who he was. But if he didn't show signs of that with your firstborn, and he didn't show signs of that prior, you're shocked and devastated when he does it the second time. So what does the family need to do to try to protect themselves, or the mother or the father? What do they, before they get into co-parenting, they were parenting. So how do they avoid that ripple?
Okay, so here's where I would start. It doesn't matter whether it's the mom or the dad. It's just that my program focuses on the mom, because there is pain and heartbreak on both sides. And in my conversations, here's what I've heard. Even though I did not initiate the divorce, I am in pain. And that is a reality. However, each and every one of us, and now I'm speaking to the women, the first thing is to recognize your trauma and your pain. And the pain and the grief is part of that trauma because of all I've mentioned already. The loss of your family unit, the loss of the shared dreams and expectations, all the shared values, the shared identity. That is the one I think that really hurts more than anything, because people saw you as a couple, as an item, as some of us would say. And when you have to rip that apart, that is really painful. So the first thing we recognize is that I need healing, because I have been going through a grief season. But you cannot heal what you do not acknowledge. And so what I've realized is, for too long, women have been told to suck it up, move on. Nobody can tell you when to move on and how long it takes to move on, for everybody. Your circumstances, your situation, your coping ability, your support system, are all factors that affect that. But yes, so the healing is an important pillar. Your growth. It's a SWOT analysis of your personal life. What are the strengths that I'm working with now? What are my weaknesses? What are the options and opportunities that I have to move forward? Whether it is in terms of an income earning, whether it's deciding on working with a partner, not a male partner. I'm talking like in business to generate income. Is it a case that you are better off working from home with the kids to cut your childcare benefits? Your child care, your expected child care cost, right? Because that's a big cost, especially if you have more than one child.
Yeah.
It can run you hundreds of dollars. So you now have to begin to figure out how to live in a very cost-effective way, especially because it doesn't matter where you are in the world, as I have learned. It takes 6 months and more for most people to have a childcare settlement with money coming in regularly. So you have to actually think fast about the economic survival of your family unit, especially if you have an uncooperative ex. And we have to remember that usually that person is going through some degree of fallout as well. And many of them are vindictive in these early months. That first 6 months to a year is a difficult season. So there are a number of issues going on. So as I said, you have to look at yourself in a growth framework. And that is looking at yourself with all of the resources that you have, the options and the opportunities.
What do you think? What do you think about like you said, the relationship healing? You have to heal, of course, yourself and be stable yourself. Being a mother such as yourself, and not so much having a separation where someone just walks off and you like, well, what the heck? What went wrong here? And trying to figure it out, but making a determination that I don't want to be here. I'm going to have to leave. Or maybe they're going through domestic violence. Maybe they're going through, someone that's just doing things that they don't want the children to see or the children to be a part of. There are factors that happen that way. What would you like to be healthy for themselves? They've already identified it. They already know what it is. They've already identified it. And like you said, most mothers, I will say a good percentage of mothers still want the father to be active in the child's life. They still, even if I drop the child off at a relative's or I drop the child off at you pick the child up after school, I come back, I pick the child up that Monday. I'm not worried about the weekend. You take them to school on Monday morning, I'll pick them up Monday afternoon. I don't want to deal with you. But I want the children to have that relationship. But my question goes back to the family needs.
Okay, so violence is absolutely.
If they're going to have that connection with the father, and I still have not healed, that sometimes is what causes a major discord when it comes to he's picking them up. I gotta get myself together to face him. I gotta do all of these things. How do you help them through that part of the process? Because once it becomes a norm, everybody's good, regardless if he's paying, he's not paying. We know he's not gonna pay. He ain't gonna show up. Those type things you heal from by yourself.
Oh, absolutely. You heal.
But when you're going back and forth with him and you go there and you bring the kids and he's not where he's supposed to be, or you get the call that, hey, your kids are still here at school, he didn't pick them up. How, and nowadays it's not even so much just the male, it's the opposite. We got females that have abandoned the possibility of the family needs. So what do you say to those type situations?
Okay, so as adults, you always have to be checking the temperature. But what is most important is that as soon as a separation or a divorce, that whole journey is unfolding, you move from being lovers to caregivers. So your new mindset should be a child-centered focus. So whatever the irritants between yourself and your husband or your ex, you disentangle physically to the level of your comfort. So you may decide to do handovers at grandma's house or at an aunt's house, at some responsible person's house. Or even if he's picking them up from your house, you get a neutral person to walk them out to the car. And I fully understand that, because you are protecting yourself by setting those boundaries. You are ensuring your own emotional healing and stability. So that is a great choice, to use a proxy to help you. And if the kids are being picked up at school, here is something that is very important. And I say to anybody who is listening, who is still struggling with fear and shame, the school must have the information about what is happening in the home. That is absolutely important. Mom's address, dad's address, phone numbers, that they're separated or they're divorced, who picks them up, a list. I had to do that for my children. I had to give the school 2 names of anybody else who is allowed to pick
Exactly.
so that the school is kept informed. So if the child is there beyond, and if the school is about to close up and the caretakers are going home, they have a number to call. But you must protect your emotional health and wellness. So never be afraid to use a proxy or allow your children to be picked up at a place of safety, which could be an aunt's house, a grandmother's house, and it could also be their father's mom, right? But it must be a place of safety. And all you're trying to do is wall yourself out from the volatility of your emotions as you are on the healing journey.
Right.
And that is so you are nurturing your emotional wellness. That's really what you're doing.
Now, how do you help heal the children in the relationship? A lot of people say they don't want the child to know what's going on. They're trying to keep it where, they're the smiley faces around the children, but the children, I've found that in a lot of cases, the children read into things before the parents even, you don't know that the children know that, hey, they're getting ready to get a divorce, or hey, they're separating, or hey, it doesn't look good, or there's a problem. My dad does this, my mom does that. So in relationship healings, could you speak to the effect that if you're not healing, you're also bringing your children into an unhealthy situation? Because someone has to be stable and healed in order, and depending on the age of the child, it's even more important. Like you said, the little ones don't know. The little ones are running around, daddy, they see him, they don't see him, it doesn't bother them. But mother or father, when they get older, they recognize the imbalance. And you have to talk to them about them healing as well, so that the family can be a split unit, but it's still a unit. So what advice do you give to them?
Okay, so I do not minister to the children at all. What I focus on is the emotional health and wellness of the mom. So here are the issues. Shared parenting. Shared parenting, not check-in co-parenting like I had. And check-in co-parenting is essentially you come and you visit for the shortest possible time. You take them when it suits you. You select the duties that you want to carry out. So there is no shared responsibility. And so that is what I advocate for. when I am interacting with my female clients.
Mhm.
Apart from cases where children have chronic illnesses or they are maybe extremely young. And when I said extremely young, I'm meaning children under 6 months old, where
Mhm.
you really have to limit the time. So
Yeah.
it's hard for you unless their dad has a support, a living support over there, especially if he works, for him to take them for a number of days. So depending on the ages of the children, if they're the tender years, he's going to have them for less time. But as you correctly said, as the children get older, they are reading the environment, they're reading their
Mm-hmm.
family environment. So,
Mhm.
what is significant for the mom as she is healing is never badmouth your ex. That's your children's partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Never do it because it is an emotional dagger in the heart of your kids. Because
Yeah.
the children know that they are part of mom and part of dad. So if you are tearing down a part of them, you are creating a self esteem problem
Mm-hmm.
for them.
Yeah.
And I do not know a child who wants their parents to be torn apart by the other parent,
Mhm.
especially when they are that under 10 years old. They are still
Mm-hmm.
idolizing their
Mm-hmm.
parents. Those are
Yeah.
the years when they still love parents and idolize them.
Mhm.
So that is one of the key don'ts
Mhm.
of co-parenting. The other one is do not out of spite decide that you're going to move 3 hours and 4 hours away just to protect your emotional health and wellness. You don't want to see him, you don't want to have anything to do with him. Yes, I understand the pain, right? He was verbally abusive, maybe physically abusive. He's not paying child support. No, stay close enough that he doesn't have the excuse to be away from them
Mm-hmm.
and not able to
Mm-hmm.
have shared parenting time.
Mm-hmm.
So you try to stay within a half an hour drive
Mhm.
so that it's easy and even less. I have known people who have actually lived like two parallel streets just to allow the children to be able to literally walk from house to house. It cuts down on childcare, it cuts down on transportation cost. And the other
Mhm.
one is when you take them out of their environment, you are also disrupting their social connections. So
Mm-hmm.
if your kid was playing a team sport, if they were in a school community, that has grounded them. It has kept their wellness and mental health. I remember, especially my eldest, she was a swimmer, and I know that yes, she loved swimming, but I know that it was also an emotional wellness support mechanism for her. So it's very important to stay
Mhm.
in the neighborhood. Do
Mm-hmm.
not badmouth and allow your to have shared parenting time.
Mhm.
And by shared parenting time, I mean there are so many iterations that I'm pleased to see happening now.
Mhm.
Normally, or I should say generally, what has been accepted over the years is one weekend on, one weekend off, that kind of situation. But now I see parents doing Monday to Wednesday, Thursday to Saturday to Sunday. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like a split week. So, when your children are actually older, that
Mhm.
can work for them.
Mhm.
And I have seen successes also of parents essentially setting up two homes that look alike. In other
Mhm.
words, the children are not dragging the toys and dragging from one house to the
Mm-hmm.
other. So they have similar facilities in both homes. So the children feel anchored to both physical spaces. And
Mm-hmm.
that does help their emotional security and their connection with the
Mhm.
parent.
And
They
and
Mhm.
I
don't
think
feel
that
uprooted from mom to dad and uprooted from dad to mom, but there is a stability when it is
right. And I
organized in
think
that
I
way.
think that the thing that the audience and any woman that listens to this or any male that listens to this needs to understand that as they grow I know from experience,
Mhm.
as they grow, they're trying to understand what has happened, even though they may not speak to you about it. The child is trying to get a grasp of what's going on. And they know that they're with their mother most of the time. Most of the time, it's
Mhm.
staying with mom. And
Mhm.
mom is trying to do 10 million things now because a lot of the responsibility is now a full-time thing for her. So she's still going to work. She's still keeping things clean. She's still doing this. Now she's the groceries that the husband may have helped her with. She's got to go do the groceries by herself with the two children.
Mhm.
So everything is compounded on one person. And
Mhm.
as you said, the healing for her is deeper
Mhm.
because of the promises and the visions and the dreams that she had for the family unit itself. So it's a
Mhm.
little deeper. But I know that there's games that are played because of
Sorry.
the emotional roller coaster on both sides. This one will do this to jill get them, and that one will do that to jill get
Mhm.
them. And the children are not so much the target.
Sorry.
The children are not so much the target, but the children are hit in those instances where you're throwing different things out, like you said, bad mouthing them and doing different things. Now the child is also hit. The child is
Mhm.
also affected. So we have to understand as women, when you do separate and when you do, I'm not saying you got to sit down and talk to your child and tell you, now look, I'm not going to be with your father and this, that, and the other. You don't have to do all of that,
Mhm.
but you do have to provide for them. Are you okay?
Mhm.
You okay?
My allergies.
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
it kicks in. Mhm.
You're Felice's friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is that sometimes when we don't make the connection or we
Mhm.
don't make the understanding, especially with the younger ones, like you said,
Mhm.
the same thing happened to me. My children are 3 years apart, but my daughter had a relationship up until 5 years old with her father.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then my son, being the younger one, he didn't have the same relationship because he was the
Okay.
baby. He was the
Mhm.
baby.
Absolutely.
So he didn't get a chance to go to the store with just him and the two of
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
He didn't get all of that. And it wasn't until I remarried that my husband took on the fatherly role and they saw the difference.
Mhm.
The
Absolutely.
interaction, the different things that were going on.
Mhm.
My daughter was
Mhm.
now a little older. She could understand, oh, that's where we were missing this. Oh,
Mhm.
that's where this should have been, or that's where that should have been.
Mhm.
But through it all, it was the like you said, the picking and the constant, your mom did this and your mom said that. And you
Yeah.
every time they would go to him, it was that picking. And now when they come home,
Yeah.
the mother has to untangle all of the rope that he's trying to put
Mhm.
around the neck of the children to get
Mhm.
them to be on his emotional side.
Mhm.
Yes.
So what does the mother or what does that parent have to do to try to untangle those things
Mhm.
for the children?
What I would definitely say that is that burden is too heavy for any child to carry, and it doesn't matter the
Mhm,
age. And as I've said before, children love both of their parents, and they really should not be given an adult burden to carry.
Mhm.
And so, if I'm a mom and I figure something like that is going on, I
Mhm.
would maybe get a bit of counseling for my child, but I would
Mhm.
also find a way to communicate the impact it's having on the child,
Mhm.
communicate that to the dad and say, I think this is overburdening of
Mhm.
her emotional health, and I think maybe discuss whatever it is with a therapist,
Mhm.
because the truth of the matter is, when kids when our relationship breaks up, in which the children were in that unit, what the children really want more than anything else is to know that their parents still love them and are going to be showing up for them, and that they are not going to be losing the input of either parent. That is ultimately what the child wants, and minimum disruption to their personal the personal spaces in which they live. And I've heard that from parents over and over again. I remember this was a relative of mine, and when the marriage was breaking up, I think he was exactly 7, and his dad said to him, what is it that you don't want to happen? And he says, I want to continue living in my house. I do not want to have to move out of my house. And I remember that stuck with his dad. And so the dad did ensure and continued to pay the mortgage until the house was paid off, and would, he was a financially committed dad, and he showed up for his sons. And so they knew he was always going to be supportive of them. I mean, as children grow older, they ask questions, and we're not always able to answer the way we would like. But by the time they get to adulthood, sometimes they figure it out and realize, you know what, I just need to move on now, because there are some things in life that won't be answered.
That's right.
You can't change. This is it. You cannot change it.
So let me ask you this question then, because you say you focus primarily on the mother in this. So you offer ways to co-parent should there be an agreement to co-parent, regardless. But also if you have a partner that doesn't want to co-parent, they may be forced to do it, talking from the man's standpoint point and stuff like that. So what you're offering is, I guess, coping or a way to kind of shield the mother in all of this different types of co-parenting, whether the father doesn't want to have anything to do with the kids, or is being forced to by the courts, right? To spend the time with them, in with the child support and stuff like that. So can you tell me just a little bit more on how you focus on the mom in this?
Okay, so essentially, I support single and divorced moms, co-parenting with an ex. The issue is, how do you want to parent your children when you are no longer living in the same house?
Sure.
If a dad doesn't want to co-parent with his ex, she has no choice but to go to parallel parenting, which is just straight parenting as a single parent without any help from the ex. Going to the courts is a choice. And I personally would love to see us stop going to the courts. But that is never going to happen. But we need a model where, as parents who live together and brought lives into this world, we should be able to agree that, okay, I'm going to have this kid from Sunday to Wednesday. You will have them from Thursday to Monday, or whatever the split is. When that arrangement is made, what it does is that it reduces the amount of child support that one person has to pay out, because it is now split. So from a family budgeting perspective, we should be civil enough to sit and work that out.
Sure.
Then we have to add the co-curricular activities and whatever other activities that are cost related, and decide on how much is going to be paid. But this
Mhm.
takes civility. And
Mhm.
one of the good things that have happened in the
Mhm.
last couple of years is the arrival of co-parenting apps.
Mm.
And many of the co-parenting apps, they you there's a budgeting component.
Mm.
But yes, and also all information related to the child. So the
Mm.
child's school, you can upload the schedule for every semester, and you
Mhm.
can upload all information. So it takes the rough and tumble out of the interface, even if
Mhm.
you are still having a bit of emotional volatility there.
Right.
But
Mhm.
you're adults, so it still takes people or one person taking the initiative and doing it, sending it over to the other person
Mm.
and say, how can we agree on this? And is there anything else you would like to change or you would like to recommend?
Mhm.
What inputs would you like to have in this? And that would be a huge help,
Mhm.
creating less economic hardship. The children would see you
Mhm.
negotiating
Mhm.
and interacting in a more positive way,
Right.
which is role modeling cooperation for them, which is a life skill that they are going to have to use in the world. So the
Right.
best place to start to learn that is from cooperative parenting,
Mhm.
so that you are handing your child a gift as opposed to having irrational behavior, sending expletives on your text,
Mhm.
on your text and your messages,
Mhm.
keep calling and being abusive, because children pick it up after a while.
Sure.
So you're able to use the parenting apps to create greater civility and to take the sting out of the
Mhm.
feedback loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the relationship healing is a key component. And in the relationship healing, each person has to heal themselves. I
Yeah.
mean, regardless of who wanted to walk away, why it happened, or whatever, there has to be a healing. And as we all know, even if you bump your elbow takes a minute to heal. You know,
Mhm.
if you cause a
Right.
scar, it takes a minute to
Mhm.
heal. Even though it has a scab,
Yes.
it's
Mhm.
still healing. Even though it has you stitched it up and the stitches are out, it's still healing.
Mhm.
And the
It
thing
still
is that
takes time.
it heals quicker on the surface
Mhm.
than it heals within. So
Mhm.
even though you're smiling in the morning and you're
Absolutely.
bundling up the kids and you're taking the kids to the park, the
Mhm.
minute someone mentions his name,
Mhm.
or the minute someone says, well, what happened to the father? Or we haven't seen him in a while. Or
Mhm.
Mhm.
the kids mention my dad no longer lives with me. The
Mhm.
healing
Mhm.
is stabbed and that scab is pulled again, and you may very well bleed from that
Mhm.
stab, because of the simple fact that you still have not healed.
Yeah.
And I say that
Well,
because, like I said years ago, my youngest is now in his 40s.
Mhm.
mhm.
So years ago, when they didn't
Mhm.
have the apps,
Mhm.
they didn't have the phone things, they didn't have this internet communication, they
Mhm.
didn't have the social media where you could blast the man or blast the woman. They didn't have all of that type stuff where the children might bump
Mm-mm.
into things that are being said, or people at the school may say it, and the whispers begin at the school for the kids to
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
embarrassed by. We didn't have all of that. But one thing that I did in my healing, I planned. And that's one thing that you mentioned. It's a plan. Plan to do whatever
Mhm.
you need to do. Your finances, if you're going to make a move, if you're going to change any of the curriculum for for the children, or you're going to change their programming. Sit and talk to
Mhm.
them. Explain to them, this is what we're going to have to do, because the survival of the home is what the children need. They
Mhm.
don't need to be going one place and they can't get dinner at 6 o'clock because nobody's cooked, or they can't do this because you're so tired out you didn't cook. They need a stable environment. And if
Mhm.
that means that you're bouncing them from aunt to aunt, uncle to uncle, place to place, and they're never home, They don't understand home life. They don't
Mm.
understand all of that.
Mhm.
So part of what you do is also being an author for voices and giving inspirational input to it. And you do have a new book out. You have a book that you were in, both being anthologies, but you were in Unsilenced Voices. And then you
Yes.
did She Believed She Could, So She Did.
Mm.
Now, I'm just looking at the title. She believed she could, so she did. That book, of course, is an anthology, but your input in the book, is it based on co-parenting, or is it based on the fact that the woman was able to just walk away from
No. My contribution to this book is from the perspective of how women are often criticized as mothers about making poor choices when the
Mm.
marriage fails or when the relationship fails,
Mhm.
and how much they go into fear and self-judgment and shame. And I share my experience that the burden that I was carrying, the parental burden that I was carrying, didn't allow me to sojourn within either of those emotions for too long,
Mhm. Mm.
because the weight of raising two kids where I
Mhm.
was getting minimal emotional support,
Mhm.
minimal support in duties like carrying them to school and all of that, and last but not least, minimum financial support. I
Mhm.
actually took the reins of my life and I decided I could see exactly the support I was getting. And I would say it was 75-25. And
Mhm.
when you recognize that, there is no point in you sitting and wishing every day that it's going to change.
Sure.
You are now going to have to believe in yourself and your ability to
Mhm.
sustain yourself and to
it?
create that personal growth.
Mhm.
So that is the angle I write from, and how that personal growth of going back to graduate school, which was always on I had a framework of a life plan even before I got married, and
Mhm.
returning to graduate school was one of the top um, aspirations of that plan.
Mm.
And I explained that I started out with short courses
Mhm.
because I couldn't afford to just launch out into a 2-year course or anything like that. So I started doing professional development courses. Some of them were a couple of weeks, some of them were a semester, some of them were evenings, but I was skill building,
Mhm.
right? And so
Mhm.
that skill building was able to build my professional capacity.
Sure.
And in building my professional capacity, I got the exposure,
Mhm.
and so became stronger and stronger in my professional offerings. And the job that I went into after my husband left, about 5 years after, was as a public relations manager working for the government. And I became eligible for study leave 5 years after. And there came, and I think I also mentioned that, there came my opportunity for graduate school. And so I was off to graduate school with my kids. And
Mhm.
by then I had a third child, and the co-parenting didn't turn out a lot better. It was better because he was present. So I
Mhm.
will give that. He was present. But in terms of the financial support, it was just maybe a little bit of an upgrade.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But the fact is, and this is why I went for this book, that first experience with my ex
Mhm.
really provided the foundation for who I was to become. I
Sure.
was not going to let any other human being pull me
Mhm.
under. And there's
Yeah.
a metaphor that often comes to my mind when I'm speaking to women. I love dogs. And I
Mhm.
say, imagine you're walking a dog and that the dog is on the leash. If you don't break free and heal yourself, that ex is going to have you on an emotional leash for however
Mm,
long you
Yeah.
allow him to do
Yeah.
it. And I
Right.
was not prepared for any man to have me on an emotional leash.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
off I went. By then, I had a 5-year-old and a 13-year-old. My eldest was then 17, and she was on her final year of high school. She said, "Mom, I want to finish my last year of high school before I join you," and I allowed her to. But so this is why I'm big on personal growth. That you have to want for yourself that development, that wholeness, to make you the mom and the person that you ultimately want to become, the best version of yourself. And no
Yeah.
one can do it for you. But the
yeah.
healing is what precedes the growth.
Yeah. Oh, great. That is
Well,
good.
well, the wording that you wrote that kind of stuck with me
Mm-hmm.
was, it's hard to be fruitful while you're holding on to what's hurtful. I think that hit deeply for me at the time of my daughter's passing. My ex, who had never supported anything, who had never wanted to be a part of, and not that he wasn't told, but he would connivingly say, "I'm coming," and not show up. "I'm doing this," and not do that. He connivingly did things, and for a long time, just, I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. I don't need you to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the funeral, he ironically walked up to me to explain to me how he had changed, how he was such a different person, how he was such a person now of God, and how he felt that he had been dismissed because he was not in the program, he was not acknowledged, he was not, so I could see the almost like the steam coming off of him, like it being, a physical, visual thing of devil, like just
Yeah.
steam and everything. And all I could do, because we were at the repast, all I could do was just stand there and say to myself, "You have grown so much." Because if this had been the years prior, the police would have had to show up. If this had been earlier on in that relationship, family would have been attacking him and trying to stop me from going through whatever I had to go through.
Yeah.
So, like you said, when you try to be fruitful in the midst, and you try to not, hold on to those things. I could literally feel those things lifting, because everything that he was saying did not touch me. It didn't make me yell, scream, curse, and tell him you're lying or anything else. All I could do was like kind of okay, okay, because it didn't bother me anymore. And that's when I knew that I had been healed. Because the whole time I had been telling myself
Absolutely.
I was telling myself that I had healed. I had said, I'm over that. I'm okay with that. And talk about it periodically. Yeah, I know he didn't do this and he didn't do that. And, talk about different things. But I knew then at that point that God had healed all of that. My prayers were answered, all of that. And it's like I said, my kids were grown. They had kids of their own. I have grandchildren. But
Yeah.
at the time, and this was just 3 years ago, at that time, you don't know how much you're carrying until the baggage in your heart and your soul becomes lighter.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was the first time that I could tell that I no longer was carrying. It didn't matter anymore. you know and there were periodic times when they were adults that I still had to call them and say, hey, you need to talk to, or you need to be available because they're questioning, or do you have a relationship with your grandchildren? At least have that relationship. None of it. And it wasn't until the funeral that I saw it. And I said, now the pain that I had that he so willingly laughed about, or sent messages and still tried to get me to be riled up about, he now has to carry that pain because she's gone, and you never associated yourself with him. So I understand wholeheartedly the effort that we make trying to co-parent, and how we go through the hurt, we go through all of that thing. But this statement here, if you're trying to blossom and you're trying to change and you're trying to get your children to be a part of that harvest that you plant, you got to let go.
Absolutely.
You got to let go.
You have to look forward. You look at the windscreen so you can see the road ahead.
Yes.
Don't be looking back in the rear view mirror. You see how tiny it is? Really tiny.
Real tiny view. So our guests, you can get in touch with Miss Clover at her Gmail account, at her YouTube account. You can see her working her thing, working her magic on YouTube. And you can also get in touch with her on Instagram. You can please, support and get her, her views within both of these anthologies, beautiful books. She is one of the authors in these books. So if you want to know about co-parenting and have tried this, you tried that, you tried this, and you still got a problem, and now you got a problem at home because the kids is telling you they want to see them, and grandparents are calling you saying, well, why won't you let them see them, and all of that other stuff. Talk to someone. Like she said, you go through therapy, look at what your needs are. And we're in a whole different type of world now, because I had no idea there was a co-parenting app.
Me either. That was news to me. I'm like, oh, there's an app for that.
There are several. Yeah. I can think of at least 5. I won't advertise any of them, but yes, they're available.
Right. Yeah. But there's co-parenting apps, there's therapy that's out there. And then there's the program that she has, the accelerated program that helps moms, get an idea of what you need and hone into it, because we all need, if nothing else, you need your spirit to be healed. You need a calm in your spirit. If nothing else, we all need that.
Yes, and you need a cheerleader, which is what the program will also do for you. Somebody walking the journey with you and cheering you on.
Right. So Felice has a last question for you.
Sure.
She loves her last question.
I do. Well,
Felice,
first and foremost, I thank you for, again, I'm turning your mess into a message, right? Because, and, using the test that you've gone through as a testimony to, you believe that you could, so you did, right? So we are always wanting to show our audience that there's a responsibility on the other side of this gift giving that you do, or living out your gifts. And that is, the self-care, the self-awareness of, you give your gift, you use it and everything to the world, and that is to take care of others, right? With your gift, to take care. So what do you do to take care of you? How do you fill your cup? What do you do to not get empty?
Okay, that's an excellent question. And filling your cup should be ongoing. And depending on what stage you are in life, we have different needs. Sure. However, filling my cup, I'll tell you what's the most significant filling of my cup right now. I think it was over 3 years ago, the Lord started speaking to me about writing, and I kept putting it off and I kept putting it off. And towards the end of last year, I decided, oh no, I'm getting this done. And I had done academic writing before, but so yes, that one was the Unsilenced Voices, Voices of Survivors, because
Mm-hmm.
for me, they I resent the fact that women live in shame and pain as a consequence of separation and divorce.
Yes.
So if I were to get a mic, the biggest mic there was in the world, that is what I would say. I would say to women:
Mm.
the shame, you can't shame yourself into worthiness.
Yeah.
So acknowledge your pain and
Mm-hmm.
move forward with your healing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can do the self reflection.
Yeah.
But don't get out of the gates beating
Mm-hmm.
up yourself with fear and shame and self judgment, because you are at the most vulnerable and possibly volatile time of your life. So for me, writing has become absolutely therapeutic.
Mm.
I am also um, pouring into, I have two grandchildren, one is 6 and one is 16. So
Mm-hmm.
I am giving them a lot of support because I think it is important
Mm-hmm.
for us to focus on generational blessings, letting
Sure.
them know that they can do whatever they
Mm-hmm.
set out to do.
Very
So
good.
I am now wanting to work with the 16-year-old. We lived through COVID together, and do some writing of children's books about his life experience with living with me, and
Mm-hmm.
the arrival of a sister and the
Yeah.
death of a brother.
Oh.
So I want us to do that. So I'm very focused on legacy, and it
Mhm.
is so rewarding. I
Very good.
Well, we want to thank you so much for being a part of our network, and also coming back to give a full view of who you are and what you do and how you do. And that's what we do here on iPen Visions interviews and conversations. We want to make sure that people understand having a full view of the person, as Felice said in the beginning of the show, the person behind what the program is, or the whatever they're putting forth into the universe. There's a
Yeah.
person that kickstarts all of that, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's a dream that's similar, but it's done differently, or it's a dream that collectively can be done together. So this is a network. This is a network where we want to connect different people, and we thank you for being a part of that. And we want
Yeah.
to thank our audience tonight for watching in, and for those of you that are watching the replay, thank you for tapping in and watching the replay. We appreciate you as well. So I'm going to say good night, Felice, good night, Miss Johnston.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so much for being with us, and we
thank
pray
you
and wish
too.
all of your programs, all of your gifts that you
you.
give become gifts for others. We really appreciate you.
All
Good
right.
night.
Everyone, thank you for joining us.